Arkansas. We don't get the money. The state of Arkansas gets the money, and they send it to us fund by fund. They tell us this is the part that goes in this fund, this is the part that's for this is the part that's for this, and we put it in those funds. And that's the way it's always been done for fire and for parks. Now and what we will do for, if this tax passes, what we will do for the additional tax for police and for consent decree is we will put it in a fund that says police and a fund that says consent decree. Now this slide says that all expenditures from the consent decree fund will be approved by the board of directors, and that's right. But I can tell you, I'm going to make sure that we look at every dollar that comes out of every fund and make sure that it's spent for the purpose which the voters approve, if we approve it. So that's where we are. You know, we're between the proverbial rock and the hard place on this. We've got to stay. We've got to stay on this consent decree, and the money's got to come from somewhere. And you know, and I talked about fines. If we get into fines, there's no state fund or any place else that's going to pay those fines. We're going to pay it. So it's a hard choice, and it's unfortunate. But the way I think about it is, if we just keep doing what we're doing and we keep this tax where it is, then we can go along for a while. And we said in the ordinance that we wouldn't raise sewer rates for 2 years. Now, I personally am going to work really hard to go longer than that. I want us to go longer than that. And we're going to look at some numbers in this process to see if we can't commit to longer than that. I'd like to be able to do that. And I believe we can, because we haven't raised rates since 2017 for sewer. And I don't want to raise them again for a long time. I want us to have this sales tax and to also manage things more efficiently. And you know, some things have developed over time, and I mentioned that $500 million. One of the things that I did when I first came on the board was I said, I want to see a list of every contract that we've done for the consent decree, how much the contract was for, and how much we actually spent. And that was in 2019 through June. And what I found is, for the 3.5 years up to that point, we had actually spent, most of those contracts came in under. They overestimated, and we were spending less money. Also, during this period of time, we got some benefit from technology. You know, in some cases, you have to dig up the entire sewer line and replace it. We discovered that for some of our pipes, there's a sleeve you can put inside the sewer line. It's really tough and strong. It will last 30 or 40 years or longer. And you could put the sleeve in it and not have to dig up the whole pipe. And we save a tremendous amount of money on that. And every project we do, we look to see if we can use that sleeve process and save money. So, again, the $500 million's got inflation in it. And again, we're gonna do our best to manage costs. And I think some of you know that the board does pay attention to those things. And I can give you an example. It's not in sewer, but you know, we were presented a contract last year for $9 million to open a new cell in sanitation. $9 million. And the board said, well, you know, we were originally told $5 or $6 million. And why is it $9 million? They said, well, you know, it's hard to hire people and costs have gone up. We said, we're not satisfied with that. We're not satisfied. We want you to go back to the drawing board and have somebody who's a real expert look at this. So they brought in an expert to look at it. And the expert said, well, that's too high. That's too high. It shouldn't be any more than $5 million, maybe 5.5. Well, the expert met with us 2 weeks ago. We have a bid for $4 million from a firm that does this all the time. And the board, by saying no to $9 million, we want a second look, save that much money. And believe me, we do this on everything we see. We raise questions. Now, we've got great people in the city, great people in departments doing their job very well. But I can assure you, this board, these 7 people, we do pay attention to what's going on, and we read every word in those board packets, and we try to make sure we're careful. So, that's the whole presentation. So, you know, I could have Chief Christensen and Chief Baker and Mr. Doug Reiner speak on parks and fire and police, and they would say, I believe that we need the money for continuing to do what we're doing. But, you know, I probably run over the time, and I know we want to get to questions, so I think we're ready for questions. The other person that really worked on this a lot with me was Neil Martin. I'm going to ask Neil to stand up, and he and I are going to try to take questions. So, Sherry, do we have a sign-up list? Okay.